At this time, we have defensive coordinator Zac Alley. Questions for Zac? Greg?
So Zach, after, four pretty good games defensively, obviously, and there were struggles this week. You look back on it, the issues, mental, physical, little of everything, what were the problems Saturday?
Yeah, I think tackling was the number one thing. I mean, I think we missed 34 tackles. I mean, that's half the game. You missed a tackle in the play. I showed our guys a tape of that yesterday, not just from that game, but from all the games, of kind of the reasons that we're missing. We looked it up, and I think we were like third in the country in yards before contact, so how fast we're getting to guys when they get the ball, and we're like 129th in yards after contact. So we got to do a better job of getting them on the ground, and that's kind of the challenge I've put forward to the guys is, when we have opportunities to make plays, the difference in getting a guy down to create 2nd and 11 versus he throws the corner down, falls forward for 5, and it's 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 11. That's where you win and lose the game. When you keep them on schedule, a good offense like that, you're not going to be able to stop them.
Is there a uniform theme on why the tackling was poor in this game and hadn't really been an issue before?
I'd say that, we had some other problems. We may have covered them up, on some of the other games. As you start to play better teams, guys make plays when you miss them. And so getting involved into that, I think, our eyes, our body position, sometimes our angles, those three things really contribute the most to just why we've missed some of those tackles. And they do a good job, Utah does, of basically running the triple option, in space. And so you have to make one-on-one plays, and it's hard to get extra hats there a lot of times.
You talk a little bit about the secondary struggles in the last game and a little bit in the game before that, and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think just overall the eye candy and the things they get, we've got to do a better job of putting our eyes where they need to be. I feel the stress of making sure they know exactly where they're supposed to be at, and then we can't be looking in the backfield. We got let up a couple wide open boots last game, and just not looking at the guy man-to-man on the dude. I can't look at the quarterback. He's not going to throw the ball to me. He's going to throw it to him. So that was pretty much the extent of it, man, just eyes, and if you're not looking at the right things, you're not going to go the right place, and you're not going to make the play.
Are there any challenges with the quarterback that wears number 47?
So his older brother, Hank Bachmeyer, Hank was with me at Boise State, and then we played him at La Tech my second year at Jacksonville State. And that family, man, they are freaking tough. I think from what I understand, the reason that he's in 47 is, I guess, Hank was the quarterback in the family, and Tiger was the receiver, so they needed a running back. So I think he was the running back growing up with the kids, and that was always his number. And so he just stuck with it, and I think it's kind of cool. But man, he's a really tough, downhill runner. He doesn't put the ball in jeopardy. He's a really polished freshman. And it's just very similar. I can see the mentality, the same thing kind of their family Hank had. And man, you can tell that Bear's got it because, man, he runs hard and he's tough.
Do you make the scout quarterbacks wear like number 47?
I thought about it, but I think we'll know who the quarterback is this week, so we may not have to do that.
You mentioned at the end of the Kansas game that you were proud of the team for the way they closed, goal line stand, etc. What are your thoughts on how the defense closed the Utah game, even though it didn't also go well overall?
Disappointing. I mean, we gave, you're down so much. We gave guys opportunities, to get in there and play and show that they deserve to play more and some of those things. And, at the end there, we let it down, and had an opportunity. We come out that last play. I mean, I told the whole huddle, I say, hey, listen, they're going to boot right here. It's going to be boot on the goal line. They're going to throw it, and we didn't cover any of them. And so it's a little bit of lack of experience. Some guys who haven't played maybe as much, at the end of the game there. But those things are disappointing because you're hoping to get some flashes maybe from guys who, want to earn the starting job this week, and try and beat somebody else out. So it wasn't the same kind of close that we had, 2 weeks ago. We're unable to kind of get off the field there.
Would you say that the past game, maybe even 2 games, has been just a little disappointing overall for you defensively, just the lack of execution in certain places?
Yeah, I think anytime we lose, you're not happy with the result. I think sometimes everybody's like, oh, well, if you played well, that doesn't matter. I mean, we lost the game. Anytime you lose, I think you always are more picky as far as just the things you look at and the ways that, those occur. It's easier to I think just human nature is, oh, well, if you win, then it goes well. So the same mistake you make when you win isn't amplified like it is when you lose. And we try not to be that way. I tell them we got to learn from everything we do. Like even when you beat Pitt, there's mistakes, and we have to fix those mistakes. And so, in the last 2 games, some of those things have shown up, and there's got to be better consistency of just taking practice to the game and being able to execute the calls.
What did you see from Nick Taylor last week?
Yeah, had a great pick on the one. If he'd high pointed it, he might have scored. He kind of let it come down. The guy ankle tackled him, but man, he'll come down and smack you. No, he had that stop on the 3rd down there in the goal line to force one of the few times we didn't give up a touchdown. And so he's a great young player, and I think that he'll just continue to rise as the season goes on and heading into his future.
You've talked about 3 turnovers a game being your standard. There were, I want to say, an average of 2 a game, if I'm right, in the first few games, just 1 in the past 2 games. What do y'all have to do to get back to forcing more turnovers?
Keep them off schedule. When you allow them to get to 2nd and 4, they don't have to put the ball in jeopardy. It doesn't come out. They can run the ball. Then, when they can run the ball, they don't have to throw the ball. And you get more turnovers on pass plays than you do run plays because the ball's now in the air. And so we got to win 1st down and force them into 2nd and longs. And, that gets you to 3rd and longs. And those are opportunities where you can create those turnovers. Had a couple guys punch at the ball last game, but not as many as we'd emphasized all week in practice. That was something we needed to do. But, part of that comes from, you tackle physically and where you're supposed to in the right body position, you have an opportunity to knock the ball out, and we just didn't do that.
Rich mentioned starting faster on offense. Just from a defense perspective, what do you guys have to do better defensively to start better on that side of the football?
Yeah, I think first thing, come out and set the tone physically. We got to get knocked back at the D-line and create tackles for loss off the jump because, like I said, it's harder when they play longer, behind the down and distance. So. I think part of it is just the mentality's got to be there that, hey, we come out and we have an opportunity to get off the field. It's 4th down against Kansas on a play we repped. We come out this time, the very first, they fumble the snap, and 2nd and 14 or whatever it is, we give up a screen and go. We'd worked in practice all week, and so you've got to create negative situations and then execute the calls.
You got a guy like Nick Taylor playing sometimes cornerback, sometimes safety. They're both defensive back positions, but they're different. How different does a player have to be when he's playing cornerback and safety?
I think some things relate, as far as the techniques of how we play man-to-man and zone. Some of those things are the same. The adjustments are obviously more at safety because they can move people. Compared to corner, you're kind of out there on an island with one guy. But, I think Nick's a guy that's got a skill set to do multiple things. And so you're trying to find him a role and, continue to grow him as he gets more involved in the defense.
Your mentality have to change, be more aggressive at, say, safety or...
I think you have to tackle more, that's for sure, because they're more in the fit. But I think the physical mindset, the aggressiveness has got to be the same.
You talk a lot of physicality and aggressiveness, and y'all gave up 240 plus in the run game the past 2 weeks each week. Is that something where you guys need that physicality even a little bit more? Maybe is the run defense.
Absolutely. We didn't get any knockback this past game. We got knocked off the ball. And if you get knocked off the ball, you're going to give up run plays. And so the mindset of knocking people backwards and, getting hands-on and, playing, I say play in their yard, chew up their grass, it's got to happen. And we got to see that turn around this week.
Rich mentioned that sometimes coaches want to add more when things aren't going well to the playbook and scheme. Do you have to avoid that temptation yourself and maybe narrow things down and just focus on what a few things you do well?
I think so. Obviously you get into games where you're not playing well. A lot of times you're searching for answers. Can we get them into something to help us? Get them into something they don't like. But there's definitely a tendency, I think, from coaches in general to overcomplicate things. And I'm with Coach. I'm trying to do the opposite. Trying to simplify this week, particularly in a short week where you've lost a practice day to get ready to play.
3rd downs have been a strength for you over the first 4 games. Was it more than tackling? Because you had them some unfavorable down and distances the other day that they managed, I think, all 8 in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. 3rd and 12, I think you win, like on average, 90% of those across the country. But 3rd and 1, you win about 20%. So the down and distance matters as far as winning 1st and 2nd down. And then there were probably, I think 3 or 4 of those in the first half where we're in position to make the tackle to get off the field and we didn't make the play, and so now it falls forward for a first down and you got to do it all over again.
Derek Carter led you in tackles. What did you see from him in Saturday's game?
Proud of him. He got banged up a couple weeks ago in practice, so he wasn't really fully healthy till kind of this week. Moved his role around a little bit and, was happy to see him get out there and play like I know he can. I've seen him do that before, and he's a physical and aggressive kid, and, that earns confidence in us as coaches and earns opportunity for sure.
Any carryover from what you faced with Utah with what you're going to see with BYU?
Pretty different. The quarterback's a good runner, but they don't use him like they use the guy at Utah. They're both similar physical, downhill run, use a bunch of tight ends, those type of things. So you'll see those similarities, week in and week out. But as far as overall, they're a different challenge this week, I feel like, than they were last week.
Zach, you say triple option in space. That sounds pretty wild, but they do mix it into what they're doing, but they offer a couple different looks for a defensive coordinator, right?
Who?
Offense, BYU.
Oh, BYU? Yeah, absolutely.
Triple option in space, that sounds like it's a bag.
Yeah, that was more Utah, I guess, than BYU. I think BYU is very sound. You can tell they're really well coached. The O-line is very good. They understand where everything's coming from. They, protect the quarterback really well. They've got outlets for him. He gets the ball out. He doesn't take sacks. They don't take a lot of negative yardage plays because of that. And I think they've done a great job as far as making it simple for the quarterback, but still hard to attack in a lot of areas because obviously he's a freshman. So I think they want to, protect him and give him good outlet throws and those type of things, make it easy on him, get him in rhythm. But you can tell that they've developed the offense around him. And then, the tailback is outstanding. I mean, he can play. And he breaks tackles. He can get downhill. He's a home run threat. He's probably, 6'2"-ish, 215 pounds. I mean, he can go. And you watch him run through everybody. So between the strong running game and then, kind of protecting the quarterback on a lot of those throws, they do a good job of staying on schedule and playing to the field position battle, the strength of their defense, all those type of things.
Part of when the defense was at its peak this year, the pass rush was clicking, starting in the Pitt game, bringing a lot to Eli Holstein. What do you think's happened with the pass rush? Where would you evaluate the pass rush now? How do you get that back to then let everything else be kind of easier for the defense?
Yeah, I think the first thing we got to do is finish plays. I mean, we had multiple free runners in the game this week, and we didn't tackle them, and that's obviously, as you can tell, an emphasis point this week that we've got to do that. And then get them, like I said, if you're not making them drop back pass because it's 3rd and 2 and it's not 3rd and 10, takes a lot more opportunities away from you to be able to rush the passer, because in a real game, as far as you get 70 plays, you might only have 15 to 20 true drop back pass opportunities to rush the quarterback. And in today's day, most teams on 1st and 2nd down are going to RPO and screen and do things where, they're not going to let you pass rush off the edges like you can if you can get them to 3rd and long like we were able to do for Pitt.
Playing a freshman quarterback, what do you do to make him uncomfortable?
I think just change the looks pre to post snap and, move people and try and, create issues for where they want to go with the ball. And then, hopefully you can get a little bit of confusion there. Maybe he'll throw you one, hold on to the ball, get a sack, and, kind of create some of those turnover-worthy plays.
You've had Jamori a couple of games now. I mean, your Bandits have been a big part of what you were doing. You sort of figuring out how to mix all those guys together and get them all opportunities?
Absolutely, and obviously, Jamori getting back and getting, in game shape and being able to play more, it helps you to be able to move around guys and play them where you feel like they can help you the most. So, I think every week we look at that and make some changes when we need to and feel like there's guys who are good at certain positions and, just use them different ways to whatever their skill set allows you to. And that's a deep room for us, so we're trying to get as many of those guys on the field as we can.
When teams use the quick game against you, what's the answer typically?
You got to have either play tight match coverage or, play some kind of, cover 2 zone type of look to be able to prevent the ball from getting out, quickly and on the edges.
Defensively, what do you tell your team when preparing for an environment like we guys will have on Friday with BYU?
Yeah, I said it's the craziest thing because there'll be, 65,000 people and they're loud and they care. I've played there before and they're like really nice. It's like strange. You know, because they're really nice, but they're cheering hard and they care, and it's a big deal to the community there. So just to prepare them for a true real road test where it's going to be loud and you're going to have to bring our own energy to the game.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
sir.
guys.